Hi everyone, I'm Thibaud, my pronouns are he, him, and just want to start by saying thank you to my partner who is looking after our kids while I get to be here. So thank you, Deborah. I couldn't be here if you weren't doing this for me. And I'm here to talk about Django. Really happy to be here. I've changed the plan for my talk quite a bit because in December of last year I became the president of the Django Software Foundation. So I thought I might as well use the platform and talk about generally how we do decision making for Django and the DSF, things that work, things that don't. We'll talk about DX a bit, but yeah, just so you're aware. Slides are live right now. You're very welcome to go in there. Add comments right now if you feel like it, or just follow along. And it's very experimental. I'm using Google Docs for slides, so see how it goes. Django, I don't know how many people here know Django. Yeah, quite a few, but Python these days is gigantic. Definitely lots don't. The web framework for perfectionists with deadlines, that's our tagline. You might not know that Django turns 20 years old in 2025. It's been around for a while, and for such a big and early project, it's really cool that it's a project that's very community run and run by a non-profit foundation since 2008. They were very early in doing this in that kind of style. Other projects from same era tend to be still more corporate. And no BDFLs since 2014. So one of the things we definitely struggle with is decision making in this kind of more community-driven, consensus-driven way. And it's a big project. My estimation is we have on the order of 500,000 to 1 million Django projects out there that are live in production, and on the order of 500,000 to 2 million developers out there that use Django. And it's full stack, batteries included, has an ORM, has routing. I know some of those bits as a coder, definitely not all of them. If you've not tried Django yet, there's 3 things I wanna plug. Django Girls tutorial, the Django Girls Plus tutorial, they recently renamed. It's an amazing resource, so happy that we have them. Wagtail is what I do as a day job. It's a CMS built on Django. It's not just me, it's a big company behind it and lots of contributors in other companies as well, but more opinions than vanilla Django. And our conference coming up in Dublin this year, where we'll celebrate that 20 years birthday. Some of my history, I'm definitely a dev first and foremost. I've been a contributor to Django for quite a while, and the whole presidency thing, governance thing, that's quite early. For me, I'm only doing this for this year, so definitely that's one of the challenges in my mind, front and center, is contributors turn over time, and people like me who step in for a year or two, and then they might not have the capacity necessarily to keep up. But that's me, that's the history, that's Django. And I thought I'd give a start thinking about keeping Django relevant on why people come to Django to start with, as contributors, not as users, but as contributors, first of all. And for me, in my mind, it's a matter of making an impact with the work you do. So this is the kind of question that I tend to encourage people to ask themselves. Why do you contribute? What kind of impact are you hoping to have? And this chart here won't go into the details. My jam is accessibility, first and foremost. And when I see this chart, when I see Django having a lower score than Next.js, it's just not acceptable. And the only correct answer is a perfect score. And we're community-driven. It's hard for us to have the resources to beat those better frameworks. But that's why we're here. That's why I'm talking to you. So we make them. So accessibility, I'm hoping way to improve. That's why I got involved to start with. More graphs. I'll skip right over this one. It's not so useful. And more recently, I guess it's worth mentioning at the scale of Django, don't know how many people here will have seen this chart before, the climate impact of technology we have to think about long and hard. I'll keep this brief, but definitely if you think of 500,000 websites or projects with APIs, that's 500,000 servers, that's tens of millions, maybe billions of users out there that are using Django websites that load them in their browser, that takes lots of energy. So any improvement we can make to the carbon footprint of Django projects, that adds up really fast. The NHS in the UK uses Django. They have on the order of 1 billion page views per year. That's why I'm here. Don't have to agree with that. That's just sharing context on how this came to be. And so from a governance standpoint, I also like stepping through the roles, the contributors ladder, to think of what keeps the community healthy and encourage us to consider those challenges we might be having. I don't know here like how long people have been Django nodes for. Definitely there are some people that love it, have loved it forever and are very happy with it. And I talk about the existential threats to Django a bit. I definitely want to make clear Django is going to stick around forever. It's so big of a project, it has so much momentum and inertia that it's not a concern whether Django will be there tomorrow or not. It's just so stable, and that's one of the reasons why people go for it. But it does still mean we have to worry about longer term, how we can keep it evolving and not just rely on this inertia, but whether it's accessibility and the carbon footprint, whether it's diversity of contributors or users, that we're heading in the right direction. So yeah, how do you know whether you're heading in the right direction? Well, in my mind, best place to start is to compare your projects with other projects. This right here is the best way I found to compare any two tech projects out there. This is the ranking of those projects' websites in a specific data set called Django. Basically, if the line goes down, it means the project's getting more and more popular. So I'll walk around a bit. This very bottom is very safe tools that will never disappear. Django's the big black line right there. Right here, we have Flask. Again, a very popular Python tool that is, I don't know how you feel about Flask. I don't know it too well myself. It's definitely going to stick around forever. And right there, we have Fast API. I don't have much data for those, so that's why I just added the 2 points. And yeah, lots of JS frameworks going like, because they have way more marketing resources than the rest of us. And also folks like HTMX, blue line in the top right corner, definitely getting adoption pretty fast. So that's the type of trends I think we should all learn to look at as community-minded open source people to understand what options are out there, what are the people outside this room in a wider pool of 2 million developers considering as far as tech, and what do they like, basically. I want to steal all the good ideas from all those different frameworks. And yeah, I think worth saying, this tells us those tools are being used. This tells us Django, people use it. It doesn't tell us that people actually like Django, which, I kind of like for that to still be the case too. So here we turn to the Stack Overflow developer survey that has really solid numbers on developer sentiment towards framework year over year. And it's a big table. I guess the sad news is numbers aren't looking so good for Django. So that's definitely why I'm here, is making it clear that it's not all rosy, and we need to take a good hard look at this type of data and think of maybe not just how we evolve Django technically, but how we market it as well, so people value it for the good bits and help us address the bits that need improvement. So I guess here in particular, the wants to start using line, people who want to start using Django, is definitely getting lower. But it's not necessarily all so bad. So I think something I want to make clear is this survey only tracks a group of like 10, 20 frameworks. So quite naturally, as new frameworks come about, they won't be in the survey and people will start using them. So this kind of downwards trend that we saw before is there for all frameworks. If we look at year-over-year numbers, so essentially whether usage is increasing or decreasing, the figures aren't so bad. And I guess this last one in particular, people who want to stop using Django, it's only ever gone down. So that does mean that the people who start using Django take the time to learn such a big framework, appreciate it. So talking about DX, maybe some of the more modern aspects of the Python ecosystem aren't there yet in Django, but the people who take the time to invest into it, they like the long-term maintenance, they like the repeatable releases, they like knowing that, for example, we have multiple maintainers, quite a bit of redundancy. It's not driven by a solo person. Yeah, just again to hammer this point home, so as a chart, what I want you to focus on here is the fact that the adoption in blue, that isn't growing so much. Here it's compared to the other frameworks in that data set. So Django still definitely is growing by virtue of the Python ecosystem growing. But what that means is we're not finding necessarily as many new people as we might like. People like to use Django, or at least people keep using it. But I'd like us to look a bit further forward than this. And Yeah, let's look at the trends in the Python world. I'm sure you know them already, but it's definitely useful in my mind to be aware that there is lots of data on this stuff. We don't have to guess. And the big trend is data science, and I guess the popularity of web frameworks among people who do data science or maybe AI with Python. Oh, this is a tough one to read, so I'll talk through the numbers. So we're looking at 2 bar charts per framework. The white one is popularity of the frameworks with people who are in the data science space, and the brown yellow one is web development. And what's really interesting to me here is to see how many data science people are using those web frameworks, but how big the gap is in numbers of people using Django that are in the data science space and web development. So to me right here, there's an opportunity for Django, maybe by changing which APIs it has, by changing its marketing, simply speaking, to be popular with that crowd. Again, I don't want to make it sound like you have to use Django is the best thing for everything, but I do think that whether it's Flask or Django or Fast API, it's useful for those frameworks to be aware of the trends and to adjust their documentation or their features accordingly. And again, just to be clear, Fast API, Flask, they're definitely the right tool for the job in lots of scenarios. So not saying that it's one or the other. And we have lots to learn from those frameworks. So just looking at this data a bit more again, we see the trend looking at survey results year over year, where there is some growth in usage for some frameworks, but definitely I'd like us to reflect on what those trends are driven by, basically. And this survey comes from JetBrains. JetBrains are amazing supporters of the Python community. They have their IDE, they have lots of good reasons to do this, but they still nonetheless show up and sponsor the foundation and make things happen. And they even packed this for us, where they say the jump in popularity for Fast API, they put it on performance, developer ergonomics, so DX, and type hinting. And that seems quite on the money to me. So definitely some things where I know that the DSF, as far as technical decision making, we struggled a bit in making up our minds and having a good story around this. And I don't necessarily think that Django is bad at those things, but I definitely think we need to make it clear what our vision is for those things. And just iterate, be open about our struggles, and make those gradual improvements that people appreciate in the rest of the Python ecosystem. It's amazing that Python's evolving. I want Django to follow along. And so again, existential threats, small challenges really, because Django's not going anywhere. People love the stability, and it's tried and tested. I thought I'd look at some internet comments on what people think of Django. I find it amazing that people take the time to share their thoughts on the framework. That definitely helps us as a community grow, and I want to encourage more of that. I'll read some bits of this that I think are really relevant. So the lack and the pace of evolution, that's definitely something where I think we have to have a good answer. And this person, they've been replied to by someone else who says, no big corporations with tons of money backing Django. I don't know here who knows how much Versal, the makers of Next.js, have in venture capital funding. It's $150 million. So the DSF, our yearly budget is $200,000, and 95% of that goes towards paying people full-time to maintain Django. So the marketing budget at the DSF is fat zero. So so we need people, and maybe we need to be better at fundraising as well. There's definitely an argument there. And we need a better story. So this last point, why do I need to use third-party packages to create a REST API in 2023? Definitely a concern with our Django package ecosystem, whether it's too fragmented or not, and which batteries should be in core. And again, I want to make it clear, if all you need is a REST API, maybe you don't need a full stack, such featureful framework. Maybe you're very happy with other ones, but I definitely want people who are happy with Django to be able to take it in more use cases. Not for me to say as the president, but I want to help the framework grow whichever direction. So more opinions on the internet. I'll focus on this bit that I haven't highlighted. It's not very exciting to be a Django developer today. I mean, I love the JS ecosystem, and I love JavaScript, but if you want excitement, like for sure, going through React upgrades year over year, switching from Redux to MobX to ZooStand, like you can have lots of excitement over there. And we're not about that, that's for sure. There are definitely trends I hope we integrate in Django, but yeah, excitement definitely, like that's not our ethos. But again, I want to make it clear, like this type of feedback, in my mind, amazing for us, and I want this kind of criticism. So it's not all doom and gloom. I've linked to those posts if you want to make time to look at what people have to say. I've left the technical aspects of, should Django have type hints? Should Django have a built-in API story? Should Django have a single file option? Should Django have better docs? In my mind, all those things sound great, but definitely the right people to make those calls in our governance model, they are our steering council. It's a group that we've struggled with maintaining over the years. We have new steering council members as of a few weeks ago. One of them, Emma, is in this room. Thank you for being here, Emma. And I hope that they help us as a community figure out which of the technical challenges to address and make it happen with our community of contributors. So the challenges, and in my mind, which things we need to be changing, encouraging more diverse contributions, definitely a framework that's 20 years old. You don't improvise keeping people around for that long. Even keeping people around for a year or two is hard. So 20, there's just no way. You have to have a plan for how you onboard people into the project and retention, so keeping them. So just a quick shout out here to the Django Space program. They're an amazing program, just like Django Girls Plus, that helps us find new people that want to take on this type of tech work with Django, and they're focused on contributors to the framework in particular. And so governance, definitely long-term technical direction by volunteers working in the open. That is a lot to ask out of volunteers. And when we compare ourselves with those other frameworks, we have to keep in mind all the engineering resources they have, not just the marketing, and how much of that is in the background where it's much easier for them to, fight over things, still be friends. Whereas for us, it's all public, and it is challenging. I guess the last one here as far as governance is having a clearer vision for the future of Django. So right now we have a vision that's pretty clear for what Django is at this point in time. I don't think we necessarily have one for how we want it to evolve, and maybe that's what takes it from 20 years old to 40. And so opportunities, the vision I just mentioned, having a roadmap for Django. This document right there is my experiment from a year ago, before I was president and also before I was a board member. And I definitely think that's such a great win for Django if we could have a public, here is for the next release, 5.2 coming out in a few weeks. Here is what we had planned, here's what we delivered. Definitely test it out if you haven't yet. For the release after 6.0, here's what we have planned and so on. Not necessarily for our users, but also for the contributors to align on the changes that need to happen. And having more professional of a foundation. Again, like I do this kind of stuff for a living for Wagtail. Wagtail is a much smaller project with much fewer contributors to coordinate. Django's on the order of 1,000 contributors per year. I'll let you imagine, like I can't even know them all by name. And those 1,000 contributors, that's representing maybe 10,000 people engaged in going to conferences, 100,000 to 1 million devs out there that use Django day to day. So finding better ways to engage with those people, again, in my mind, essential. I don't want to learn just from those other frameworks and trends. I want to learn from what people in those kinds of rooms talk about and value. And we have about 5 minutes for questions, I believe. I'll be right outside this door to talk about Django for the rest of the afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Do you have any question?
Yes, thank you. You have mentioned the ecosystem of third-party packages, which some people believe are necessary to turn Django into a usable web API. Is there a plan in the short or medium term to try to maybe reach out to these people, collaborate with them to see if some features can be put into the best project, or is it not a direction which is considered right now?
Yeah, great question. There is definitely a plan. We're in touch with as many package maintainers as we can, and we've been in touch with those people that, the DRFs and the ninjas of the world for, I want to say, almost years now. The problem we face is that, again, like the DSF is quite a small entity. It's not super sustainable for us to move things as big as packages in core. So we have to think very carefully of keeping our cost of maintenance low enough that it's sustainable while bringing this innovation. So in the case of those APIs, to me, again, as a technical contributor, not as the president, the answer would be making sure we review the story from a developer's perspective, looking for those options and deciding. And maybe it's just a matter of listing the top 5 of those packages in that specific space in our docs, rather than people having to go and hunt for them. Hope that helps.